Everyone has an opinion on this one. Your parents say buy, the internet says rent and invest the difference. Your coworker swears renting is throwing money away. Your other coworker swears buying is the trap. And you are sitting in the middle of it wondering who to actually believe. So let us stop guessing. Ryan rents, Daniel buys, same income, same city, same budget. They both think the other one is making a huge mistake, but neither of them ever sat down and ran the numbers past month one. So we did. Rent increases, mortgage interest, property taxes, maintenance, appreciation, opportunity cost, all of it. And when you lay it all out, one of them is building wealth while the other is silently bleeding it. The gap after 10 years is not even close. My name is Chris, and I spend an unreasonable amount of time doing the math that most people avoid until it is too late. If you want to make smarter decisions with your money instead of just going along with whatever your parents did, subscribe and hit the like button. Let us get into it. Here is the setup. Ryan and Daniel both earn $55,000 a year. They both live in the same mid-sized American city. They both have $60,000 saved up, and they are both looking for the same thing. A 3-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood, close to work. Daniel buys a $300,000 home. He puts 20% down. That is his entire $60,000. He takes out a 30-year fixed mortgage at 6.5%. His monthly mortgage payment is about $1,517 in principal and interest. Add property taxes at roughly $250 a month and homeowners insurance at $130, and Daniel's looking at around $1,900 per month going out the door. And that does not include maintenance. Ryan rents a comparable place for $1,400 a month, no down payment. He takes his $60,000 and drops it into an S&P 500 index fund, averaging around 8% annually. His monthly cost is $500 less than Daniel. He has no mortgage, no property taxes, no maintenance responsibilities, and a growing investment portfolio. On day one, Ryan looks like the smartest person in the room, but there is something Ryan does not realize yet. Every dollar Daniel pays is slowly buying him a piece of something. Every dollar Ryan pays disappears the moment it leaves his account. And that distinction over time is worth a lot more than $500 a month. For 3 years, Ryan is living light. The furnace breaks, he calls the landlord. Roof leaks. Landlord's problem, dishwasher dies. Someone shows up, and Ryan does not pay a dime. His only costs are rent, renter's insurance at maybe $15 a month, and utilities. No surprises, no 5-figure repair bills. And his $60,000 investment at 8% annual returns has grown to roughly $75,600 by the end of year 3. Ryan has not added a single dollar. It is just compounding quietly in the background. Daniel, different story. Closing costs hit him for about $9,000 on day one. Appraisal fees, title insurance, origination fees, then property taxes start coming. Insurance maintenance at 1 to 2% of his home's value per year. That is $3,000 to $6,000 annually just to keep the place from falling apart. And here's the part that really stings. In the first few years of a mortgage at 6.5%, almost all of your payment goes to interest. In year 1, Daniel pays about $18,200 in mortgage payments. Roughly $15,400 of that goes straight to the bank as interest. Only $2,800 actually chips away at what he owes. That interest vanishes just like rent, except nobody calls it that. Let us run the numbers through year 3. Ryan has paid roughly $50,400 in rent and has a $75,600 index fund. Daniel has spent over $13,000 between his mortgage, closing costs, taxes, insurance, and maintenance, with only about $9,500 in equity built through principal payments. Through year 3, Ryan is winning, and it is not close. Ryan's lease comes up for renewal. Rent goes up 4%. That is $56 more a month. He barely notices. $1,400 becomes $1,456. The next year, $1,514, then $1,575. So each increase feels manageable. It is never enough to make Ryan panic. It is just enough to quietly eat into his budget a little more every year. Now look at Daniel's mortgage payment, $1,517 in principal and interest. Same number he paid on month 1, same number he will pay on month 120, same number he will pay on month 360. For 30 years, that number does not change. This is the quiet mechanism most people miss. Rent is a variable cost that only trends in one direction. A mortgage is a fixed cost that inflation slowly makes cheaper in real terms. In year 1, Daniel's payment feels heavy. By year 10, it feels normal. By year 20, it feels almost cheap. Ryan's rent does the exact opposite, starts comfortable and gets heavier every single year. Ryan's $1,400 rent, growing at 3.5% per year, becomes roughly $1,870 by year 10, about $2,510 by year 20, and approximately $3,370 by year 30. Daniel is still paying $1,517 as something starts shifting around year 4, and by year 6 the math has quietly reversed. Daniel's home has been appreciating. Historically, U.S. home values have grown at roughly 3 to 4% per year on average. At 3.5% annual appreciation, Daniel's $300,000 house is worth about $347,000 by the end of year 6. Meanwhile, his mortgage balance has dropped to around $269,000. That means Daniel is sitting on roughly $78,000 in equity. The difference between what his house is worth and what he still owes. That is $78,000 in net worth. That did not exist 6 years ago. But here is what makes it even more interesting. Daniel did not put $78,000 into the house. He put $60,000 down. The rest came from appreciation on a $300,000 asset that he controls with a $60,000 investment. That is leverage, and it is the single biggest advantage homeowners have over renters that almost never gets talked about in the monthly payment debate. Daniel is earning appreciation on $300,000, not just on his $60,000. His money is working 5 times harder than Ryan's. Ryan's index fund has grown nicely too. Assuming he has not touched it, and that is a big assumption, his $60,000 has compounded to about $95,000 at 8% annually by year 6. That is a solid $35,000 gain. But Ryan only earns returns on the money he actually invested. There is no leverage, no multiplier effect. And Ryan's rent is now creeping past $1,600 a month. He is approaching what Daniel pays in total housing costs, except Daniel's payment is buying him equity, and Ryan's payment is buying him another month in someone else's property. The scoreboard is tightening, and the trend from here only goes in one direction. The monthly rent is the number you see. It is the number on the listing, the number in the lease, the number your brain anchors to when you are comparing options. What you do not see is the trajectory of that number over the next decade, 2 decades, a lifetime. Rent never stops. There is no month 361 where the payment disappears. There is no payoff date circled on the calendar. There is no finish line. When you are 35, you pay rent. When you are 55, you pay rent. When you are 70 and retired and living on a fixed income, you still pay rent. And that rent is significantly higher than it was when you were 35. Ryan's $1,400 rent, growing at just 3.5% per year, becomes roughly $1,870 by year 10, about $2,510 by year 20, and approximately $3,370 by year 30. At the end of 30 years, the exact moment Daniel makes his final mortgage payment and starts living in his home for free, Ryan is paying over $3,300 a month for the privilege of living in someone else's property. But the money is only part of it. Renting means you do not control your housing situation. Your landlord can sell the building, they can choose not to renew your lease, they can change the pet policy, raise the rent beyond what you budgeted, or let the property deteriorate because the repair costs cut into their margins. You are building your life, your kid's school district, your commute, your neighborhood relationships on a foundation that someone else owns, and they can pull it out from under you with 60 days notice. None of this means renting is a bad choice, but it means the true cost of renting is not just what you pay per month, it is what you pay over a lifetime, plus the control you give up along the way. If I only showed you the downsides of renting, I would not be giving you the full picture. Closing costs hit you for $7,500 to $15,000 before you even get the keys. Maintenance is relentless. A new roof costs $8,000 to $15,000. An HVAC system runs $5,000 to $10,000. And some years, a $12,000 foundation repair ruins your summer. Budget 1 to 2% of your home's value every year and hope for the best. Property taxes can rise even when your mortgage is fixed, and your equity, it is trapped inside walls. You cannot spend it on groceries or use it in an emergency unless you take on more debt. The only way to fully access it is to sell, and that means paying 5 to 6% in agent commissions, another round of closing costs, and hoping the market has not dipped at the worst possible time. Real estate is an illiquid asset, and illiquid assets are dangerous when life does not go according to plan. Here is where the full story comes together. Over 10 years, Ryan has spent roughly $193,000 on rent and renter's insurance. He owns nothing. But his $60,000 index fund, untouched at 8% per year, has grown to about $129,500. Daniel has spent roughly $285,000. Mortgage payments, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, closing costs, a lot more than Ryan. But his home is now worth approximately $423,000, and his mortgage balance has dropped to about $253,000. That is $170,000 in equity sitting there. Ryan, $193,000 spent, $129,500 in investments. Daniel, $285,000 spent, $170,000 in equity. When you net it out, Daniel is $40,000 to $60,000 ahead, and the gap accelerates from here. Every year that passes, Daniel's balance shrinks, his home value climbs, and Ryan's rent goes up. By year 30, Daniel makes his final payment and owns his home outright, a home that could be worth over $700,000. His monthly housing cost drops to taxes, insurance, and maintenance, maybe $600 a month. Ryan at year 30 is still writing a check for over $3,300 a month to a landlord for the rest of his life. I would be lying if I said buying always wins. There are specific situations where the math genuinely favors renting. If you are staying less than 5 years, buying is almost always a money loser. Closing costs on the way in, agent fees on the way out, and minimal equity built in the early years means you will probably lose money compared to renting. The break-even point for most purchases is 5 to 7 years. If you are not staying at least that long, renting is the smarter play. If you live in an extremely high-cost market, San Francisco, Manhattan, parts of Los Angeles, the price-to-rent ratio can be so skewed that buying makes no financial sense. When a home costs $1.2 million but rents for $3,500 a month, the math does not work for buyers. If your career requires geographic flexibility, or if you are the kind of person who takes every dollar saved by renting and invests it consistently without ever touching it, the returns can close the gap. But be honest with yourself. Most people do not do this. The savings get absorbed into lifestyle creep, a nicer car, dinners out. The investment part requires discipline that most people simply do not maintain for a decade. Renting as a strategy is smart. Renting as a default, you never question, is expensive. Ryan and Daniel both made their choice thinking they were being smart. Ryan thought he was staying nimble, letting his money grow in the market. Daniel thought he was building something. Neither of them actually ran the numbers past the first year. Daniel won, but not because buying is always better. He won because he locked in a fixed cost in a world where everything else keeps getting more expensive. He won because leverage let his $60,000 earn returns on a $300,000 asset. He won because every payment brought him one step closer to a finish line. And after 30 years, his housing cost drops to almost nothing, while Ryan keeps climbing. The real trap is not renting, and it is not buying. The real trap is making a $300,000 decision based on a monthly number without ever asking what this costs you over 10 years, 20 years, a lifetime. And if you are about to make another big financial decision after this one, the math on that might surprise you too. For now, the next time your lease renewal shows up with a 4% increase that feels like nothing, run the numbers because that 4% does not feel like nothing when you add it up over 30 years. That is the only math that matters. If this changed how you think about the rent versus buy decision, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. Are you Team Ryan or Team Daniel right now, and why? I will be reading every single one.